All right, Travis believes, my brother. Welcome to the Happy Hustle podcast. I am super excited to connect.
Yeah, me too, man. Super excited to connect with you, man. I really appreciate you having me on. Super excited to connect, share my story, and see how we can help other happy hustlers.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And, when I was just learning more and more about you, I mean, you got an amazing, inspiring story. And what you're up to now is just next level. I mean, being the CEO of Interlight Media, and you've worked with some of the biggest names in the game, which I mentioned in the intro. It's just crazy to see your transformation into where you are now from where you were before. Talk to us first and foremost about something interesting about yourself. Before we get into all that juicy stuff, I want to hear something interesting that not too many people know, Travis.
Yeah, that's a good question. This might is a little curious about people, but one of the things about me that's a little interesting, that's different from most entrepreneurs, is I don't believe you have to wake up early. I don't believe you have to have this ultra set routine every single day in order to be successful. I think what is underutilized is there's a difference between hustle and alignment. And so I think what's important is really understanding, how do you align with yourself? You don't have to get up at 5. You might want to wake up at 9, right? You don't have to necessarily meditate 3 times a week or read a book, once a week. You can listen to an audio book instead, or, showering and pampering yourself could be your form of meditation. Like, I don't think there's this strict, rigid, it has to be this certain way in order to be successful. I actually think that's keeping other people from being successful because they think they have to do these things to be successful. So,
Yeah, man, that's so interesting. And I really like that you led with that because, first of all, I am all about alignment. My book is literally titled in the subtitle 10 alignments of being a happy hustler, and, to avoid burnout and achieve blissful balance. And I can just speak to my own journey. Like, I was out of alignment many, many years. Like, I was hustling, but not happy. I was trying to achieve that success and that status and, those titles and the ego that came with it. And I think a lot of people, you're right, like, are out there hustling, trying to do the 5 a.m. grind club and like burning the candle at both ends. But there is a better way, and it's the way that's best for you specifically. And for me, like, I've figured out my own version. Let's dive a little deeper for you, man. What does alignment really look like for you, and how does that dictate your schedule?
Yeah, alignment looks like for me is 3 things. It has to align with integrity, right? Whatever I'm doing has to align with my principles of what I consider to be integrity, right? The second thing is it has to energetically align with me, right? Like, does this feel good? Is this something that I feel passionate about? Is this something that is really aligned with the tone of my energy? And then, because I just give you a quick point. I used to think that getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning was the thing, but I've never really been a morning person, right? So I was trying to force myself to do it. And what happened was I found myself actually being in different, like mood swings. And what I mean by that is, like, in the morning I would, get myself together, clean up and everything like that. But I'd be kind of like agitated because I'm like, I didn't really feel like getting up. I kind of like wanted to sleep a little bit more. So, and I noticed that. But what I noticed in changing that habit was, okay, how do I get my 7 to 8 hours in? And how do I make sure I am getting the proper rest that I need instead of trying to fit into this box? So that's what I mean by energetic. And lastly, I try to make sure, like, I try to measure my progress, right? Like, how is my progress being measured, right? And I just do that by setting 3 goals a day. Simple, something physical, something business-wise, and then something mental-wise, like how am I feeding my mind? How am I feeding my body? And then how am I progressing in business today? And so I try to just keep it real simple. And as long as I achieve those goals every single day, then I'm making progress.
Man, those are great. And I really like that you break it down into that type of simplicity, 3 goals, like,
Yeah.
and in different categories of different areas of life. And, the first point you mentioned was integrity. And I know you and I probably didn't have it at one point in our lives. At least I know for me, right? Like I was doing things the wrong way. I was up to no good in my early years, like in childhood and teen years. And, I think integrity now is such a big component of who I am. And I know who you are, like operating with that integrity, making sure that you do things that you're proud of. When you look in the mirror, can you look back and say, I'm proud of this man that I am today or woman I am today? Talk to us a little bit about that shift in integrity and really where was the breaking point?
Yeah, well, there was a point in time in my life where I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and St. Louis is consistently ranked top 5 most dangerous cities in America. And I never met my dad. My mother was a drug addict, and I just was living place to place. We've lived in homeless shelters, all types of things like that. And so I was constantly around desperation, right? So when you are in a desperate state of mind, it's more about self-preservation at that time. So it's not about anything altruistic. It's about how do I preserve the self? This means taking things from other people. This sometimes means, doing certain things to whatever, anything that where you feel like you have to preserve the self. Even though I wasn't like a bad person growing up, I didn't have a mindset of understanding that whatever I put out in the world is what's going to come back into me until I ended up in jail. I ended up in jail for robbing people because I didn't have a family I could rely on or anything like that. I really was homeless, and like not like the fake homeless where somebody says like,
yeah, I was in my car.
Yeah, I was homeless
for a night,
but I was living with my brother. Okay, you wasn't homeless. Like,
true.
Like I really had no place to go. So anyway, with that, so I had a long time, 3 years. I spent, got locked up when I was a teenager. And I had to really look at myself and understand, like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Why am I doing this stuff? Why is this happening to me? And I had to examine who I was as a person. I had to examine what my purpose was. I had to examine, what are the things that are motivating me? And I realized that we all have the same motivations. We all want to be happy. We all want to contribute to the world in a positive way. And we all want to be respected, right? So when I realized that the only way that can happen is by coming from a fruitful place, right? A place of gratitude, a place of, right? When I serve, people will respect me. When I have integrity, people will respect me. And then therefore I will be around those same type of people. And then this is how we actually make progress. And so when I realized that, I was able to really see when people weren't operating in that. I was able to see in jail how many people are just trying to impress people or trying to do certain things and trying to gain respect the wrong type of ways. And it made me recoil away from all of that, and really try to transform who I wanted to be.
Damn, man. What an inspiring story, honestly. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of my journey. Obviously, there's a lot of areas where your journey is far different. I was similar in the sense that I was taking things. I had like this klepto mindset, which was just like constant. And I got into, selling illegal items. I'll leave it there. And then I got into may or may not have manufactured fake money for a while. And we had, the authorities after us, and we were doing it, at a pretty big scale. And, and I was just up to no good. I had plenty of love from my family life was a little broken, came from a pretty gut wrenching divorce, but my mom and dad both loved me, and my brothers and sisters and I, and, we had to move, I don't know, 24 times before the age of 18 because my mom has sickness. So it was adversity. And there was a bunch of things that I think led me to this path of like going, without integrity, just being kind of lawless and rolling the dice. And similarly, I got into jail, locked up, and not for as long. But I saw the light when I was in there because I realized, like you mentioned the word recoil. And I think that's such a beautiful word. Because when I was in there, I had a recoil. Like I was like, I do not want to be surrounding myself with these type of people. I do not want this to be my reality, and I think we all have those moments in our lives where you can look back and you can see there's two different paths. You can recoil or you can proceed. And, it's really important to recognize those in your own reality and then to make that pivot if it's necessary. So thanks for sharing, man. I know we kind of got off on a tangent, compared to where you're at now. It's like where I'm at now is completely different, but I think it's important just to, we're imperfectly perfect, Travis and I, we come from an interesting past. Everyone has a story, and it's something I know Travis is really passionate about, sharing that story. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about story and how you see it and why it's so important to share yours.
Well, because I remember getting out of jail and really trying to figure out everything, right, in terms of what I wanted to do. And I remember, being turned down by so many jobs. I ended up getting a job in 2 weeks, even though it's hard because you go in and tell someone, hey, I went to jail for this. I just got out. Give me a chance. Yeah. They're like, not a chance.
Yeah.
But what I started to realize is, all these different, it's like a game. Like none of this is authentic, right? We go in with these resumes. I think there was a study that said like 75% of people lie on their resume or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And you're looking at people's resumes and applications and things like that. And you see, people are trying to pretend to be all these different things. And what I realize is this is not real. I mean, it's real life in its implications, but it's not real life in terms of being authentic. And I realized we're just not operating in authenticity. What entrepreneurship did for me was realize I can operate in authenticity. I don't have to pretend to be something for somebody else in order for somebody else to accept me, to maybe get some sort of income to possibly take care of myself. Even though I had a job, I realized this wasn't for me. I didn't like being managed by people I knew I was smarter than. I didn't like being managed by people that I knew was trying to get me to do shady practices here and there in order to make sales. And I started to understand that this was something that was not fulfilling for me. And so, the more I realized that this wasn't for me, I started diving into the things that I knew was for me. And it is because of that, right, that I really want people to understand that even though it's okay to have a 9-to-5, it is not okay for that 9-to-5 to have you, though. All right. You can have a 9-to-5, but don't let that 9-to-5 have you. Right. Always seek to, have some ownership in something. Always seek to have some sort of side hustle. Always seek to understand that do not rely on this, because there is even as an entrepreneur, I'll say it's not safe. You know what I'm saying? And it's not safe as a 9-to-5 person. But I would rather bet on myself than whether or not a person is just going to continue to, because I don't really know. It's not really based upon your metrics and how good you are or anything like that. And, you can get fired at any time and all this other type of stuff. So anyway, it's okay to have a 9-to-5. Just don't let that 9-to-5 have you. And to really understand what it means to have ownership outside of what you do as your main source of income. And so when I started having this thought process about how easy it is and fragile it is, because I was getting a little anxiety, like, dang, what if they come in today and say, you know what, I don't want you here anymore because you got a felony or somebody I just didn't want that anymore. So once I dove into my entrepreneurship, I found, a guy named, Prince E in St. Louis, Missouri. And, he was a rapper at the time, right? Now he's this big, motivational speaker and spoken word artist and all that, but at the time he was just a rapper. And, you know, he had a movement called Make Smart Cool, which SMART stood for Sophisticating Millions and Revolutionizing Thought. And I thought it was incredible. So I joined that with him and this is back in 2010. I started helping him, you know, build his platform. And eventually in 2014, he went super viral. And it was from that point on, as he continued to go viral and viral, and he started to blow up even more and even more, you know, I started to say, you know what? I could make a career out of this. And that's when I started formulating my own career out of it.
Yeah, man. First of all, Prince EA, I mean, I met him at Funnel Hacking Live. Super awesome dude.
Yeah.
Super humble and kind.
That was in Nashville, right?
Yeah, in Nashville. And it's just awesome to hear that, you know, you, first of all, like, took a bet on yourself. I think is the biggest like takeaway for the happy hustlers. Listen, I'd bet on yourself. Like, I'm in that similar boat. I want to control my own destiny, you know, and I was in the entertainment world, acting and professionally modeling for a long time. And I just didn't like that I had to be chosen for roles, for movies, for commercials. It was like I lost the job for one time because I looked too much like the casting director's ex-boyfriend. Okay, I was like, how can I, you know, make a living when, you know, I can't control that? And so I realized right there, just kind of how you realized, like a 40-hour work week and a 9 to 5. There's no guarantees in life, but you can bet on yourself. You can have a side hustle. You can take ownership. And, you know, I really want to kind of go deeper into really how Inner Light started. I know with Prince EA that kind of gave you that boost, but talk to us now about like where it is today and also how it got there.
Yeah. So as Prince E and you know, was going super viral, and I'm running all his accounts, you know, and everything like that on social. I'm working with him on every video. You know, people are constantly hitting them up like all the time, like, yo, hey, you know, come here. Can you show us how we did that? You know, because if you remember at the time in 2014, there wasn't really anybody. These entrepreneurs weren't creating these motivational videos and that just wasn't really happening. And so there was a young man named Jay Shetty, you know, who hit up Prince E, and I was like, oh man, this guy, you know, you can almost tell the authentic ones from the inauthentic ones. And you know, I just really resonated with them. And so I started working with him, you know, so it's like, yo, listen, let's chat further. And me and him became close. We chatted every day,
nice.
You know, and he really took the game and took it to another level. And so then I started meeting people like Lewis Howes and Tom Bilyeu and a lot of these other people, these huge entrepreneurs, and they weren't that huge at the time. You know, and so started working with them, and it just became great. It became an overall fun experience, and I knew I can create a business out of that in terms of working with entrepreneurs and helping them see their. So, because my thing is, my purpose has always been able to recognize the talent in people, help them flesh out that talent, and then help them connect with other people to inspire other people. That's always been my talent. I've been able to do that for a very long time, and so. You know, I formed a company around that idea. Like, how do I see the talent in other people and help them reach a mass of people to inspire them to do more good in the world? And so now, you know, I love helping entrepreneurs. I'm doing mainly consulting now, and I also do content creation. So people that have podcasts like you, for example, that need their podcast created in the optimal and most professional way possible, have that content created, and also work with them on reaching a large and massive audience. These are the things that I like to focus on in helping people out. And that's what I'm doing today. But yeah, man, it really started off as an idea. Really, I was just working with Prince E, and then we just started reaching out. I mean, started touching so many different people, and so many different people started reaching out. It became like a no-brainer, like, yo, I could form a business around this, right? I could start helping people systematically and doing the same thing I did with Prince E as them, you know?
Yeah, it's so awesome to hear that progression. And, you know, you solved, you know, someone's problem. And that's what business is all about, right? Solving people's problems at a profit, right? That, I mean, when you break it down, that's what my buddy Wade T. Lightheart says. And it's one of those things, you know, here Travis is, he met Prince E, and, you know, he started making videos with him, which, by the way, those videos were absolutely fire. Like, he's got still some of the best videos in the game. You got some of the best videos in the game. And then to work with someone like Jay Shetty and, you know, like his videos and his content, it blew up. And you know, Lewis and Tom, I mean, you obviously have the magic sauce, right? And like, you know how to extract that story and how to connect with an audience, how to grab attention, which attention is the currency these days, as you know. What's the process, right? What's the process? Break it down for all the happy hustlers listening. Like, I know this is, you know, something that you do on a large scale for at the top level. And so we obviously can't go too deep into it, because if you guys want to go real deep with him, check out innerlightsocial.com and book a time, you know, connect with Travis and his team. But give us just some of like the basic structure to virality. Like when you're creating a video, like what's the components?
Yeah, one of the main issues that I have when it's talking to entrepreneurs, and what they don't understand is they think that the information that they know is going to make them viral. It's just not the case. People don't connect to information. People connect to stories, right? You have to tell a story. People don't care. It's like the old saying, right? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? Because at the end of the day, people need to know, can I trust this person, right? And you build that trust through relatability and consistency, right? I can only trust this person if I relate to them. I don't know if they can connect with me, right? I don't know if their story, they're not like me. Like, they don't know what I'm going through. They don't have the experience or understanding of what I did. But when you connect with them in the story, they can identify themselves in you. They can identify their problems in your story. And then you know what happens? They can identify their solutions through your story. Right? Because your story, you only tell your story when you've overcome the problem, right? When you overcome the problem, now I can share my story with confidence. And then somebody can relate to that and say, oh, now this person is an inspiration to me. And then that's when you hit the heart. That's when people say, you know, I'm going to click share. So it starts off, whenever you're dealing with this and you're creating a video, start off with, what feeling do you want people to have when they watch this video, right? Who is the audience I want to reach, right? Even though there's 7.5 billion people on the planet, you really only need this many, right? The truth is, the more niche you go, the better. So, for example, if you're a stay-at-home mom and you speak to stay-at-home moms is going to gravitate towards what you say, but the people that they're connected to is going to gravitate towards what they share. You see what I'm saying? So that's how you go viral. You need to have a specific audience that you're talking to, right? Who am I talking to? Who's the people I want to reach, right? Now it's, what's the feeling do I want them to have? How do I want them to feel, right? Now, how am I going to tell a story that's going to get them to feel that way, right? What is the magical moment within me that got me into doing what I'm doing that's going to give them the transformation? What's the story that's going to connect with them? Because again, people don't connect with numbers. They don't connect with information, right? They connect through relatability. How do you relate to them, right? How do you present to them in a way that makes them think about what you're saying? You can give them all the information in the world after you relate to them. But after you relate to them, that is what builds that trust factor into you being an authority for them. So the virality is going to come from, how are you going to make them feel? Pointing out, like, who do I want to speak to? Niche down your audience, right? And then understand how you want to tell your story, on what platform you want to tell your story on. Is it Facebook, right? Do you want to write it out? Is it Instagram? Do you want to do it through pictures? Is it YouTube? Do you want to do it through video? Obviously, video is the highest currency when it comes to content creation. Which is why really all these platforms are coming down on video, like, you know, a lot. But it doesn't matter what platform you're talking about. It doesn't matter if you're talking about 100 years ago or 100 years from now. It's going to come down to 3 different things. It's just going to come down to how you're making people feel, the story you tell, and how you relate to them. Period. That is always going to be a formula of going viral. And it's not going to happen immediately, but if you get the formula down and you start really getting in the groove of talking to people, about solving their problems through stories that, hey, listen, you know, this is why testimonials, right, work really well. Hey, listen, I had this problem here, but I worked for them and I was able to get, you know, those type of testimonials work because people are like, yo, I got that same problem too. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's how you solved it. I can solve it too then, right? So, you know, that's how you really get to that's how you get somebody to say, you know what, I am going to share this. And shareability is key.
Fire. Yeah, it is. I mean, I just want to recap because that was gold, Travis. The first question, you know, is what feeling do you want people to have when they're watching your video or they're reading your blog post or they're, you know, listening to your podcast, whatever that piece of content is. What's the feeling that you want to translate, right? And then, of course, knowing who you want that video to reach, right? That niche, like go a mile deep and an inch wide. And this is a really hard one too. I find like, you know, a lot of people want to be everything to everyone, right? And then they become nothing to no one because, you know, you're not clear on who you want to serve. Yeah. And then you mentioned, you know, just what is that story? Like, how are you going to share your story so that it's relatable to them? So awesome, man. That formula is really powerful, and it's sure it is simple, right? But it's not easy, right? Now you mentioned one other thing. This is something recently that I read on this. It's a national study from Brand Builders Group. They said the number one thing that makes people buy more than degrees, awards, followers, title, any of it is, drum roll please, testimonials. Just like you said, right? Testimonials are the secret sauce to success when it comes to selling a product or service. And of course, you think about it, you're going out to eat, you look at the reviews. You know, you look on Amazon to buy something, you look at the reviews. You know, but people I don't think share those enough. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Talk to us about the questions that you like to ask in order to get a great testimonial.
Well, I'll say this in order to tell a great story. There's a couple questions I ask, and this is going to sound kind of morbid, but stick with me for a second. One of the questions I ask is, if you knew you were going to die in 30 days, what is the message that you would give the world? Right? What do you think the world needs to hear? Like, what do you feel so passionate about that you're like, this is like my dying message to the world, right? Now, think about that for a second. When you start doing that, it's going to foster some sort of emotion inside of you. So when I said that, there's a feeling that you had, right? What's the it's like, yo, you start getting real deep, right? You start becoming real visceral, you know, with that feeling. Now, once you have that message, you think to yourself again, okay, so I told this story. Now, if you had to do it again, what would that message be? Then you can come up with another message. So it's like, this is how Prince C created all his messages. He's like, yo, what is like super vitally important for me? And so he created a video, and he created another one, and he created another one, and each one was that important to him. And so you're able to create your best pieces, or you're able to communicate your best messages because they feel the most real and authentic to you. You're not just trying to sell something, you're trying to connect with people. And that is one of the questions. Another question I asked too is if you had a microphone and you were speaking to the entire world, right? What would you tell them? Like, what would you tell them? And the people that listen to you, that's your tribe. Those are the people that you need to connect with. Don't worry about the people that don't connect with you because they have other people to connect with them. Just worry about the people that do connect with you. We always like to worry about the people who don't like us instead of worrying about the people who do like us. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So, you know, there's different questions that I like to ask just to kind of like engender a certain type of feeling in people. And I want them to tell it from that place because I want somebody else to have that same feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so imperative that you ask the right questions, you know, first to yourself and also to others, you know, especially like when you are delivering a product or service, you want to extract really great, you know, feedback in any capacity. And I think that first question for yourself, you know, that you mentioned, if you knew you were going to die in 30 days, what is your message to the world? Like, that's powerful, you know, and it got me thinking. I'm like, oh, damn, what the, you know, what? And another question that I like to ask is, what does success actually look like for you? You know, and this is more in terms of just overall holistic lifestyle and happiness and success for, you know, people like have their society's version of success, the Lambo, which is often rented and used in social media videos, right? But, you know, like, what is your, you know, version of success? And I'm curious, Travis, what is success to you? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, happiness is success to me. I think happiness and peace are the highest forms of success. Get into a place where you're fulfilled. Get into a place to where you're able to operate as your optimal self. Get into a place to where you're exhibiting your best qualities. That's success.
Amen to that, brother. That's true. Peace, happiness, you know, for me too, I tell you, I value freedom, you know, like creative freedom, financial freedom, and time freedom. Those three freedoms, like that's success. And then using
let me even
gifts.
challenge that though. So I hear you, and I agree with you. But even when I think that, even when you say something like freedom, though, it's because you want to get to a certain place. You see what I'm saying? Like, even when you say, "Hey, I've freedom," okay, but freedom because you want to be happy, or you want, you know what I'm saying? Like, so just like even thinking about that for a second, you know, and I don't think you can be truly happy without freedom. So I definitely agree with that. But even when I think about certain things like that, like there's a lot of different things I attach myself to, but most importantly, me being able to exist as my optimal self, me being able to be fulfilled in my purpose, me being able to be happy and peaceful, these are the greatest ways of existing as a human.
Yeah, so true. And I love the quote, "The secret to living is giving" by Tony Robbins, because, you know, I truly believe you can have freedom, you can have happiness, you can have peace, but if you're not in service of others, like if you don't live in that mindset, you won't have true fulfillment.
Yeah, I don't even know if you can, like, you know, so what's so funny about that is, so I've thought about that too, because I've read a little bit of that book. I don't even know if you can really be, like, there's an external sense, like you can get an extraneous sense of happiness, like, yo, I went to go play a video game and I was happy while I was playing a video game, or I was with this person and, you know, this person really made me happy, but I don't really consider that happiness. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that's a different level. That's like a temporary. When I say happiness, I really mean life happiness or fulfillment. I guess you could use the word fulfillment, right? But I'm just referring to in a stronger sense, in a more spiritual, holistic sense of happiness, in a sense that happiness isn't an external thing and it's an internal thing. And I don't think you can get that unless you are fulfilling your purpose. That's, you know, I don't think you can get that without that.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And, you know, for me, when I think of the happy hustle, like I have these three buzzwords. They're very cliche, but, you know, it's passion, which is like, for me, that inward calling, that like pull on my heartstrings. Like I just need to do this, with the purpose, which is like that outward serving, like, okay, who the heck am I helping? Right. And like, why? And then it's got to make a positive impact, you know, like those are the three recipes to happy hustling, like the three components to happy hustling, a life that you love. And, you know, without those three, like, yeah, you're right. Like happiness, I do agree as well. Happiness comes from within, you know, you cultivate it, you create it. But you're not going to be truly happy, you know, externally, like you said, if you're just living for yourself. Absolutely. You know, so really great point there, man. Let's break down just, you know, one last piece to the Inner Light Social and you know, kind of your process, because like you've garnished like billions of views, I believe, like something crazy. I don't even know. Do you know the total number?
Well, for my brand, I actually have a brand, Interlight Media. I've garnered over 1 billion views with that alone. But if we're talking about working with other people, I don't actually know that number. Yeah. Gosh,
I mean, it's got to be crazy. Like those guys who you've worked with, and I know your content and the process, it's I'm sure it's grown and evolved so much. But I'm just curious, like, what would you think is the number one mistake that you see content creators making right now? Because you've learned from some of the greatest, like, content creators. What do you see as like the biggest mistake? Maybe some of their greatest mistakes, or maybe just the overall general mistake that you see?
The biggest mistake, number one, is commitment. I'm gonna name two really big ones. Commitment is number one.
Please.
Like entrepreneurs, they're so used to being results driven that they don't really understand creativity, right? There's a difference between being in business and then understanding creativity, right? When you're a creative, you're going to go a month here, and a month there where you may not see the results that you want, right? And you have to understand that not only should you trust the process, but the investment in this is understanding that every single time you get something wrong and you're not connecting and anything like that, this is giving you information, valuable information that's telling you what you did was not right. So change your formula, change what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Continue at it. Like there's one popular YouTuber called MKBHD, right? He did 100 videos before he even got 1,000 subscribers. And so I think people really need to understand that this is a process. Like a lot of these people that people look up to, like Prince C, Jay Shetty, this didn't happen overnight. It took years to get there. It didn't just happen, right? And they're not committed to the process. They're committed to the results, which is a problem. So that's the number one thing. The second thing I would say is many people have a fundamental misunderstanding of what it comes down to when it comes to creating content. And what I think is really important to understand is stop trying to give people content the way you want to give it to them. And what I mean by that is, you're just a vehicle for, you're a vehicle. Things are coming, like abundance doesn't flow to you, it flows through you, right? It comes, you're in a state of gratitude and it flows through you, right? Same thing when it comes to your story. You're a vehicle to transform people's lives, transmute people's lives, right? And so when you look at these different platforms like Facebook and Instagram, these are just different ways to tell your story. These are just different ways to connect. Don't be so attached to it. It has to be this way. It has to be this way. Because when you become so attached to it has to be this way, it has to be this way, you're going to miss the beauty of understanding that, hey, listen, you're just a vehicle for this stuff to connect with other people. And it's going to continue to transform. It's going to be social media at one time. It was radio at one time. It was TV at one time. It's going to continue to transform. Don't be too married to, it's okay to be married to your brand. It's not to be okay. You don't have to be married to the specific thing that you want, though. Like, be okay to change. Like, okay, well, I tried it this way. Let me try it another way. Let me try it another way. That's okay, So anyway, those are two very important things. Just understand how to give people the things that they need from you in the way that they need to receive it.
So well said. I mean, success doesn't happen overnight. You could hear that cliche how many times, it doesn't matter. People still want that 6-minute ads.
Overnight, Hey, listen, how come I don't have 1 million followers in 30 days? Like,
Yeah. And it's like the commitment, I like to use the phrase persistent consistency. That's like been a running theme in my life. Just persist consistently, past the inevitable adversity. I think that's a really big component. And then the other piece that you mentioned, it's just so important. But having that commitment, first of all, making sure, and then the vehicle, like being the medium for the message. Like you have to realize that how you learn isn't always how other people learn, and you have to figure out what's the best way to share your message on these different platforms, and look at the feedback, like the feedback that comes from you, from your video with no views, and the feedback from the video that has 1 million views, right? That's all feedback. So you have to evolve and pivot. Really great points there, man. Now, I know you're up to something really cool. We have this Make Your Message Matter workshop coming up. Let's talk about that. We have Mike Zeller on, super awesome dude. I know you guys are partnered up with this. I'm going to be having my hand in it and adding value as much as I can. But talk to us about this Make Your Message Matter, the workshop and the event.
Yeah, so listen, I feel like one of the most important things that people need to realize is really understand how to tell your story, right? How to tell your story and connect with your audience is the best way to build a community. But there's a different story on how you tell your story in order to build your brand, and then there's a different story on how to sell your product. And I think people need to really understand that. Like, for example, let's just say a founder story. Like, how did you become who you became, right? And it's like your story. How did you start your business? That's the story, right? How did you make your first sale? That's the story. How did you make your 100th sale? That's the story. Like there's different stories that people need to understand on how to connect with people that goes from level to level in terms of not only building your brand as an entrepreneur, but to connecting with more people to build a community to sell more. That's what this is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's a really great distinction again, like having those different stories ironed out, because I think a lot of people are trying to sell their product or service on the first date, so to speak, and oftentimes you have to nurture your prospect throughout multiple videos, build the know, like, and trust, add value. And then when you have that attention and you've added sufficient value, then you can ask for the sale, but not until then. And I think it's a really important to know when those stories fit and why you share them. Because as you mentioned, selling your book, for instance, is going to be different than sharing your founder's story. It's different. They're different messages. This Make Your Message Matter. What do you know exactly when those workshops are, and where can people go to sign up and check it out if they want to go deeper?
Yeah, so the link, we'll put the link in the description, you know what I'm saying? So people can, I'm not sure exactly when this podcast will come out, but, we'll have the details in the description just to make sure that whenever people want to sign up, that they can. But the most important thing I really want people to really understand is that with this, not only going to be to build you an online community and learn how to go viral, but you're also going to know how to connect with people and sell more product, some more of your product. So,
yeah, that's awesome, man. So Make Your Message Matter. It's coming up in Dallas, I know, in the near future, depending on when you're listening to this. Check the link in the description of the show notes, and we'll link to everything. I know there's workshops in February, end of February, and early March. So just check the link in the description and get on the next one. And then if the event makes sense and you want to you learn firsthand from Travis and Mike and a bunch of rock stars who are speaking at it, myself included, I'm going to be there. Again, that is how you really start to cultivate your message and, build your community and positively impact more lives.
Yep.
So that's what it's all about. Now, Travis, I do want to ask you a couple Happy Hustle hack questions. These are, my traditional questions, and then run you through the rapid fire round, and then we'll wrap this interview up. These first questions are just, something that you do specifically, in a couple different disciplines. First being health, maybe a tip, a tool, a tactic, something that Travis does that, we could deem a Happy Hustle hack, will you? Something regarding health. Can you think of anything?
Yeah, 3 things. First thing I am very intent on is making sure I drink enough water every single day. Every single day. Listen.
Nice.
You cannot do your best and optimize your utility on earth if you don't take care of your body, right? So I drink a lot of water. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I drink water. I go outside, get that blue in my pupils, because it literally adds a certain type of it adds to not only you waking up, but it also adds to your productivity and alertness.
And it tunes your circadian
Yeah,
rhythm as well.
yeah. And then I personally immediately do a little bit of a workout routine just to get the blood flowing, get just juices flowing, and get the metabolism going, things like that. And so that has really served me really well to go out throughout the day. But I also have a list of healthy daily vitamins and stuff that I take as well.
Nice. Yeah, I mean that water component's so huge. Just making sure you're drinking enough water, and I think a lot of people don't understand when you sleep, your body gets dehydrated, and you wake up craving electrolytes and water, and so it's really important to hyperhydrate in the morning. Getting that sunlight, obviously, that vitamin D. And it's actually really good for your eyes in the wee hours from 7 to 10 a.m. It's actually really good for your eyesight to get it. If you look about 40 degrees off the sun and you actually do a downward dog and you invert and you look up, you can increase your vision. We had one client back when I was in the biohacking game who he stopped wearing glasses. All he was doing was downward dog, looking up at the sun in the mornings, and completely increased his prescription like 3 points or 3 different levels. So great there. Vitamins, minerals, eating healthy, getting a workout, all things I'm all about. Now, I do like to talk about money. I think it's important. It's a tool, right? It's a frequency. It makes you more who you are, right? What is something in regards to money, something that you do to save, invest, or spend wisely, something in regards to money that we could deem a happy hustle hack that you could share with the happy hustlers out there?
So I know a lot of people have a lot of different spending habits and things like that. Obviously, it's important to save money, but I can tell you till you blue yourself blue in the face to save money. The people that are going to save money are going to do it. The ones that are not. Here's something that there's 2 things I really do to focus on my money. First thing is I like to focus on my earning potential. Like I look at based upon my trajectory, based upon what I can do, what's the amount of money that I can earn right now? What's the amount of money I can earn over the next 30 days? What's the amount of money I can earn over the next quarter? What's the amount of money I can earn over the next 12 months? And I make goals based upon what I believe I can earn. My earning potential is off that. That's how I make my goals, from my earning potential. That's number 1. Number 2 is I don't count any money until it is in my bank account. So I don't count any money. It's not mine until it is in my bank account. From there, I am able to assess how much is going to go to taxes, how much is going to go back into the business, how much I need to save, and then how much I need to, invest in myself and other things like that. But yeah, so I am very keen on not counting any dollar until it gets into my account. And then I am able to divide, okay, this needs to go to taxes, this needs to go to savings, this needs to go back into business, this needs to go to myself.
Yeah, those are great, man. Really great. Just focusing on your earning potential, like based on really where you are. And again, taking accountability for your reality right now. If you don't like where you're at in your finances, like first you got to take accountability. Then you got to focus on your earning potential, where you can get to in the next quarter, next, year, 10 years.
But here's another thing too,
for me,
the reason why this is important real quick. When you have a thought process about your earning potential, it will motivate you, because you might say, if you just, let's just say you got a 9 to 5 and you're making $50,000 a year, you say, hey, listen, okay, well, these are some certain things that I want to be able to afford, but my earning potential currently doesn't allow me to. So what happens is you can say, oh, okay, well, I know I can earn more money by doing other things, and these are some other things that I want to do. Now your brain opens up because you're focused on your earning potential instead of focusing on whatever limitations that you currently have.
Yeah, so true. And then the other piece that you said is don't count, your money until it's in the bank. I definitely, I can agree with that. One other thing for the happy hustlers that has transformed my money game was financial literacy too. And I'm sure you can agree, Travis,
Absolutely.
just really knowing the difference between a stock and a bond, knowing, what is a 401k, like just educating yourself. And if you don't know these things, well, it's purely because of ignorance, because everything is available at our fingertips nowadays. So educate yourself, read financial books, and become a student of the financial industry, and you will see your financial wealth increase. Yep. Yeah. One last question in regards to Happy Hustle Hacks, Travis. Something in regards to spirituality, a way that you connect with the higher power. Do you have something, I don't necessarily care who people believe in, what one thing or another, okay, great.
If I had,
let me hear it.
So I'm not a particularly religious person, but if I said I was
me either
closer to something, it's probably Rastafarian than anything.
Right on.
And
I like the dreads, so that fits.
But to really dive deep into it, my thing is this, and a lot of people don't like this philosophy, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm not your judge. I'm not going to be the one that's going to tell you whether or not you're going to heaven or hell or whatever. None of us are. There's only one being that's going to do that. In my opinion, it really doesn't matter what you call yourself. What matters to me is how you are actually acting in the real world. Right? How are you? That's who I connect with. So for me, spirituality is about connecting to things that are greater than yourself. And you can only really become your true self when you're connected with that. And that's you gotta do that when you connect with your purest self, your highest self. But the hack for me that allowed me to get to the level I am from a spiritual sense, or at least allowed me to really dive into my purpose, is realizing that, it's everything is about, this entire life is not about me. It's about the connection that we have with everything. Every single thing on the planet has a life force that we can connect to. And so therefore, we need to treat things with care. We need to treat things with respect. And love, no matter who they are, no matter where they're from, everything has a connection to who you are. I don't care if somebody in some remote area in some far off country, they're connected to you because they are human. They are a part of the ongoings of life. They are part of how we create whatever it is we create here on earth. And most importantly, this is one thing I really find is super important. Is what I always tell people. Imagine, right? So we have Elon Musk. Now imagine if the potential for everybody on the earth, no matter man or woman, had the potential to be Elon Musk. How many problems will we solve? You see what I'm saying? So for me, when it comes to spirituality, I look at it like, how do we create the best environment for everybody to flourish, right? How do you connect with your inner self that's going to allow yourself to be your optimal being? How do you operate in a way that's going to connect yourself to something greater than yourself? How are you going to operate in a way that is of integrity, that builds a legacy that's going to live long after you leave the planet? And to me, that really is how you dive into spirituality. So, you can do meditation, and all that and the other. And all that stuff is great. But I know plenty of people that meditate and all this other type of stuff, and they be some of the worst people. What are you meditating for? Like, you're one of the, what are you going to, we all know, people going to these different religious facilities and what are you doing that for, bro? You're one of the worst people I know. What are you getting out of it? For me, it's not about that. It's about how do you connect?
Yeah. Oh man, that you kind of reminded me. I saw this video of this old. He was like a father with his family, and he left some religious church. I don't know which denomination it was, but he went to a restaurant right after. Like they showed them leaving church. It was like one of the kids filming. Then they went to the restaurant, and he just ripped this waitress a new one. Like, it's the Lord's Day. You just prayed. You were, being all religious. And then you just were so rude to your wait staff over something that was out of her control. It was like so minor. And you're right. It's like how you show up in this everyday world. That's what matters. It doesn't, necessarily matter what in God or another. We're all human beings just doing our best, and like, it's how you show up every day. And just believing in something bigger than yourself, I think, is really important. Having faith.
Yeah, whatever you need to achieve your highest self, whatever you need in order to understand this is about something bigger than yourself, and you need to be your optimal self. Like, how do you do that? Because ultimately, spirituality is about life. How do we continue life in the best way possible? In every religious book, that's what he wants, right? This is what it's all about.
Yep.
How do we continue life in the most optimal way, the best way possible, that's going to lead us to whatever kingdom we are going afterwards? You know what I'm saying? So that's, I'm not anybody's judge. I can't tell people what to practice. The only thing I can tell you is if this is what you study and it is allowing you to achieve your optimal being, I'm not your judge. Do what you do.
Yep. Preach, brother. Now, Travis, this has been amazing. Let me put you through this rapid fire round, and then we will wrap this up. This is basically where I ask you random questions, and you answer honestly. First thing that comes to mind. Are you ready? All right. Favorite movie? Go.
Apocalypto.
Favorite food?
Fruit. I don't really have a specific one. Just fruit in general.
Nice. Favorite book?
Favorite book will probably have to be The Wishing Tree when I was a kid, because it allowed me to imagine things and create a fantasy in my brain away from everything that I was going through at the time.
Love that. Favorite workout?
Pull-ups.
Nice. Me too. Best business advice?
Best business advice. I think the number one principle everybody needs to learn is the ability to pivot. I don't care how well your product is. I don't care how good you are. I don't care if you can't pivot in changing circumstances to meet your client wherever they're at, you're going to fail. I don't care who you are.
Well said. What's your spirit animal?
I'm going to have to go with lion.
Nice. And 3 things you're most grateful for?
My wife, my purpose. I really love my purpose. I know that maybe that's kind of self-serving to say that. And my ability to connect with people online and to achieve not only my goals and purposes, but to help other people do it. So, yeah, I guess, I don't know, those are kind of self-serving answers, but.
Hey, it's all good, man. And then last rapid fire round question. If you had a billboard for the world to see with your last piece of content on it, what's that billboard read?
It is, we all have the responsibility to win regardless in life, no matter the circumstances. Win regardless is kind of like my brand. I believe that everyone has the responsibility. Because it doesn't matter, whatever your circumstances are, you still have the obligation to win in life. Like, you could have come from the worst circumstances as possible. You still have to win in life. So, win regardless of the circumstances.
Dude, I love that. You crushed that rapid fire round, Travis. And man, I just want to take a moment to just acknowledge you for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom with myself and the Happy Hustlers. And, just for speaking your truth and just showing up as the authentic Travis and helping others share their story and coming from where you started to where you are now, man. It's an inspiration for, I know, myself and a lot of people out there. So just want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. I really appreciate you, man. It's been an honor.
Yeah. Now, Any final words before I ask you the last question? Anything you want to share with the Happy Hustlers, and maybe go ahead and just mention, again, where people can find more about you and, that workshop as well.
Yeah, man. Just, Google me, Travis Believes. Follow me on Instagram. Subscribe to my YouTube. And I really believe that, if you're, if you want to like really kind of like progress your brand, if you're really into somebody to, edit your content, create your content, the most professional, quality types of content, come to me. I got you. Or if you need consulting on how to build your brand online, your digital presence, and go viral, I got you covered.
Yeah, and that's innerlightsocial.com.
That's the website. Innerlight Media is the name of my company, but innerlightsocial.com is the website. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and then we'll have all that linked up in the show notes, as well as that workshop, that Make Your Message Matter. Yep. Now, Travis, last question, man. What does happy hustling mean to you?
Oh, man. It means, so one of my taglines is called Millennial Realionaire. And
I saw that.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm a millennial, but Realionaire is about achieving success through authenticity, I think that being a happy hustler essentially is, doing what you love, doing what, being able to achieve whatever version of success you want for your life through your hustle. And I believe that's something that we can all achieve. Everybody can be happy doing whatever their hustle is. And so I encourage that.
Mic drop. Travis Believes, everyone. That was amazing. Thanks all for watching and listening. We are out. Peace and love.